Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. First of all, thank you once again. I really appreciate your joining. We are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 9. We're going to continue from text number 10 and we'll cover up to 22. Verse 10. Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Excuse me. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So as we can see here, Krishna is talking about his supremacy, giving us knowledge that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's clearly saying that this material nature is his divine energy. And above all, it works under his direction, which means he decides how it's going to work. It depends on his desire, on his will, and the reason being because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that even though Krishna is in charge, excuse me, he's aloof from it all. He does not get involved in the material activities. He remains the supreme director, the supreme controller, the supreme maintainer, you can say. He's the sanctioner, he's the witness, everything. But he does not get attached to this material nature. He remains aloof, just like a supreme director. And he decides when to manifest and when to unmanifest. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita tells us, where Krishna says, Aham bija pradaha pita, that I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. It's not just human beings, but all living entities, whether insects, birds, animals, aquatics, it doesn't matter. He is the seed-giving father of all living entities. And he explains that this material nature is like a mother, and he is the supreme father. And then we take birth, the children of the supreme Lord, the supreme father. And what does he do? He injects the living entities into the material nature. Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely. We, being the children, we are manifest and unmanifest at the will of the Lord. A few classes before I had explained, which is a higher knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence of the Vedas, where there are two kinds of unmanifestations, or you can say annihilations. One is when Lord Brahma finishes one day, and that is partial annihilation. And then when he completes his 100 years, that is when there is complete annihilation. So there's unmanifestation. And then again, living entities are manifest. Now, some of you, I'm not sure if you are aware, that 100 years of Lord Brahma in Brahma Loka, the heavenly planet, topmost heavenly planet, is 311 trillion 40 billion years for us here on the earth. So that is his lifespan. Now in text number 11, Krishna tells Arjuna that fools deride me, avajananti mamudha, manusham tanum ashritam. He says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. There's a very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti so Arjuna. That anyone who understands in truth, not just theoretically, in truth, the transcendental nature of appearance and activities of Krishna, then he guarantees that after we give up this material body, we will not come back into this material world, but we will go to his supreme abode. So here he's talking about those fools who think Krishna is just an ordinary person or maybe a strong or powerful personality. No, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. They do not know his transcendental form. Now, Lord Brahma in his Brahma Samhita tells us, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha means form. So he's describing Krishna's form and he says it's Sat Chit Anand. It is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. It is spiritual, transcendental. It's not like our material human form that we have, that which is made up of all these elements or whatever, blood and whatever it is, in the body. This is material form, but Krishna's form is transcendental. So those who deride Krishna when he appears like a human being, the reason he comes in that form is okay, we can relate to him. Imagine if he appears in some other form, like the universal form or something, it'll be very difficult for us to relate with him or even have a relationship with him. But here, when he appears out of his pure mercy, he comes in the human form so that we can relate to him. So he appears so that he can, of course, there are other reasons why he comes, but his body is not material like our body. Our bodies are completely temporary and full of miseries. You ask someone who is, quite aged like I am, what kind of problems are there in the human body? Whenever someone asks my husband, how are you? He does not give a standard reply, oh, I'm fine, thank you. Well, if you say that, then you're actually telling a lie because you're not well, especially at that age like mine. So he says, well, are you really interested in knowing how I'm feeling? And they, out of being polite, they say, oh, yeah, yes, yes. So he says, where do you want me to start, from top or from bottom? So I can start from top and say, okay, my head is hurting, my eyes are hurting, my ears are hurting, my throat is hurting. And then I can go down all the way and tell you what all suffering is there in this material body. So, but Krishna's body is transcendental. He is the Supreme Lord. He is not just a common man or a great man. No, he is the Supreme Father of all living entities. But then there are some who think they don't, because they don't have knowledge, they think that Krishna is just an ordinary man, maybe a little bit powerful, but this is due to lack of knowledge. So we need perfect knowledge from perfect source. And that's what we are getting over here in Bhagavad Gita classes. We are getting perfect knowledge from perfect source, and that perfect source is Krishna himself. And he is speaking to Arjuna. And we are following Bhagavad Gita as it is because it is coming down in the strict disciplic succession called the Parampara, where the authenticity of the data is maintained. There are no changes, there are no personal opinions added to the translations or personal ideas, speculations, no, nothing at all. It's in pristine condition as Krishna spoke it to Arjuna. And that is what Srila Prabhupada has done, given us Bhagavad Gita knowledge as it is. And the devotees who have faith, they accept it. And then they gradually surrender to Krishna, and kind of their consciousness becomes Krishnized, they become Krishna conscious, which means it doesn't matter what they are doing, whether they are taking care of family, cooking, cleaning, working at a job, doing business. It doesn't matter what they are doing. Their consciousness is completely surrendered to Krishna. In the sense, everything that they do is being conscious of Krishna. For instance, uh, we all eat every day. So a devotee will cook with the consciousness that, okay, I'm preparing this, but I'm going to first offer it to the Supreme Lord and then take the remnants, which is called sanctified food, or in Sanskrit is called prasadam, which has the potency of purifying our senses, our mind, our intelligence. Srila Prabhupada says it even purifies finer brain tissues so that we can understand, spiritual knowledge. So it all depends on the faith. Faith is very, very important. In fact, anything that we do in this material world requires basic faith, because until and unless we have faith, we're not going to move forward to do whatever we want to do. Talking about faith, I remember hearing a very nice story. There was a milkmaid. In India, there are these ladies who, milk the cow, and then they take, from different homes to deliver milk, and that's how, they earn a living. So in one village, there was this milkmaid, and she was, excuse me, she used to go every morning, early morning, to deliver milk. Now, to go to deliver milk, she had to cross a river, a small river, and she would wait for the boatman, use the boat, go across, deliver the milk, and go back home. Now, one day she got delayed because the boatman was not there. There was a boat, but there was no boatman, so she couldn't reach on time. And so this gentleman, he called himself a Brahmana, a learned person. Maybe he was Brahmana by birth and not by qualifications, because the qualities of a Brahmana are that they are very patient, they are tolerant, they are compassionate. But he got very upset with this milkmaid, and he said, he started yelling at her that, how can you be late? And he told her that, I have heard that you are very spiritual, you believe in God. What happened? How come you couldn't cross the river by just chanting the holy name? Haven't you heard this? In the spiritual classes, etc., etc. So she said, I'm really sorry. I will try to come on time tomorrow. So then, sure enough, she was on time the next day. So this Brahmana, I said, oh, so the boatman was there on time and you are able to come, deliver the milk on time? She said, no, the boatman was not there. So he said, oh, then how did you come? She said, well, you told me yesterday. In fact, he told her yesterday that just by chanting the holy names of the Lord, you can even walk on water. You told me yesterday. And so I just closed my eyes and I just kept chanting, chanting, chanting. And I walked across the river and here I am. He started laughing. He said, that's not possible. He didn't have faith that the holy name can do that. So she said, well, I'm not telling a lie. If you want, we can go back together. We can chant and we can walk on the water and we can go on the other side. He said, oh, he thought in his mind, she's just bluffing, she's just joking. So let me see. So he went with her, and sure enough, she closed her eyes and she just started chanting with faith. She had so much faith in the holy name. She started chanting and she started walking on the water. And he was shocked. And then she turned around and she said, come on, chant and come with me. But he didn't have that faith. So he, like we tippy toe, we put our toe first inside and then, just to make sure I'm not going to fall down, etc., etc. Because of that consciousness, the moment he put his toe, he went straight inside the water. He had no faith at all. While she very nicely, with full love and devotion, she chanted and she went across the river. I'm not saying you should try that, but this is just to let us know how important is faith. And in the very next verse, Krishna tells Arjuna, excuse me, in verse number 12, about faithless people, those who don't have faith in him or in his words. That is what he's talking about. What does he tell Arjuna? Excuse me. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. He's talking about faithless people who have no faith in Krishna. They don't believe that he's the Supreme Lord. They don't believe that he has that supreme power, etc., etc. So they remain bewildered. Just like if, I want to probably start a business to make some money, but I have no knowledge. Naturally, I'm going to be bewildered because I won't know what to do, what not to do, how to go about it, how to make money. First thing, I need knowledge. But to get knowledge, I have to have that basic faith that from where am I getting this knowledge? Is it a bona fide source? So those who are faithless, Krishna says they are bewildered, they are deluded, and then they cannot get liberated and they're defeated. In fact, if you all remember in the 7th chapter, we learned about 2 kinds of people. There are 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to Krishna. No mam dushkriti no mudha prapadyante naradhama. Dushkriti no means miscreants who do not surrender. And then we also learn about 4 kinds of people who surrender. Chatur vidha bhajante mam jana sukriti no Arjuna. Krishna talks about pious people who surrender to him, 4 kinds of pious people. So these 4 kinds who do not surrender to Krishna, they are the ones who are faithless, and so they are bewildered. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says that if we consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being, that is an offense. And why do some people do that? It's out of envy. Well, what is envy? Envy is something I don't have that you have, and I don't like it. I don't want you to have what I don't have. I want what you have, or I want more than what you have, So, all trying to be like controllers and, not wanting to surrender. So that is what happens with those who are faithless. Now, in the next verse, Krishna says, O son of Pritha, that is Arjuna, those who are not deluded, the great souls, he's talking about the Mahatmas, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. You see, the Sanskrit word says Mahatmanas tu mam partha. He's talking about the Mahatma, a great soul. That is a topic for today. Who is a Mahatma, a great soul? So Krishna says, someone who is not deluded, who's not bewildered, someone who is not in ignorance, someone who is in knowledge, someone who is that Mahatma is under my protection. That means, there is a very famous saying, Rakhe Krishna mare ke, mare Krishna rakhe ke. Whomsoever Krishna wants to protect, no one can annihilate. And whomsoever Krishna wants to, annihilate, no one can protect. So these Mahatmas, they come under the divine protection of Krishna. Why? Because they are fully engaged in serving him with devotion. And most importantly, they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have no doubt about it at all. And that is how they are considered Mahatmas. Now, the question may arise, how can one become a Mahatma? If one starts associating with spiritually minded people, then one starts, taking on knowledge. It is said, Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivriti. So then there is this basic faith, And because of that basic faith, one comes in contact with devotees, sadhus, saintly people, and one starts associating with them. And when they associate, then they do bhajana kriya. That means they start performing devotional service based on the Bhagavad Gita. And then when that devotional service becomes like in full, like fully engaged in devotional service, then there's anartha nivriti. Anarthas means unwanted things which are there in the heart. They start getting cleared from the heart, like lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, etc. So this is what a Mahatma does. The first sign of Mahatma is that Mahatma or great soul comes in the protection of divine nature, is situated in divine nature, is not under the control of this material nature, even though this great soul is living in the material world. Why? Because this great soul has surrendered to Krishna. Now, surrender is a very heavy word. One may say, what does it mean to surrender? To surrender means to follow the instructions of Krishna given in the Bhagavad Gita. And such a Mahatma, there is no doubt that such a person is a Mahatma, a great soul. And when this Mahatma, starts progressing, or progressing spiritually more and more, you can say the soul is completely awakened to Krishna consciousness. And this process is so simple that a person can become a Mahatma just by starting with mantra meditation. That's all that it takes. If we can practice mantra meditation on a daily basis, gradually we can come to that stage of being a great soul, a Mahatma. We will be, by chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Just by this mantra meditation, we will be able to understand Krishna. It's not possible to understand just by hearing, or just by reading, or just by listening on an audio tape or something. No, it's not possible. We need the mercy of Guru and Krishna to understand Krishna. And the first step is to follow the instructions that are given. And Krishna says in practically every chapter, he talks about mantra meditation. He says, Satatam kirtayanto mam. In fact, this verse is there in this very next verse, number 14, is Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhridavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Nitya means always. It's not that we chant on Wednesday evenings from 7:30 to 8:30. No, it should be every day. So this 14th verse, which I just recited in Sanskrit, Krishna says, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So again, he is giving the qualities of a Mahatma or a great soul. What does a great soul do? Is always chanting. Now one may say, how is it possible that I can chant all day long 24/7? That's not possible, because I have so much to do. I have to take care of family, I have to go to a job, etc., etc. Fine. But at least we can chant for, maybe one round, which takes about 10 minutes every day. And then throughout the day, we can chant in our mind. But at least one round we can chant, 108 times we can chant loudly, so that we can hear those sound vibrations can go and start cleansing our hearts. So here, Krishna is talking about the symptoms of a Mahatma, that he's always chanting. And not only that, he is endeavoring. He is making an effort. Just like if he wants something, just like a boy, wants a girl, then he is going to endeavor to get her somehow or the other, try to please her, impress her, etc., etc. So that determination is needed even in spirituality. So endeavoring with great determination. Then the next thing Krishna says, bowing down before me, and perpetually worship me with devotion. Now, what's the meaning of perpetually? Perpetually doesn't mean Wednesday evening, 7:30 to 8:30. Perpetually means always chanting. So this word Mahatma, unfortunately, it's misunderstood by many, especially in India. If someone is wearing saffron clothes and has put some tilak here or tilak here, there, everything with long matted hair, they say, "Oh, this is a Mahatma." No, Mahatma is not a rubber stamp that you can put on, for as, "Oh, this is Mahatma. Oh, this one is Mahatma." No, the symptoms are clearly given in the Bhagavad Gita. Who is a Mahatma, a great soul? So, someone who is always glorifying Krishna. And the best way to glorify or perform devotional service is by chanting the holy names of the Lord. And Krishna is saying he is always worshiping me, always engaged in devotional service. So, important word in this verse also is determination. In fact, we cannot achieve success without determination. If the child is not, does not have enough determination to study throughout the year, then at the time final examination is not going to pass, because did not study with determination, was very casual, was playful, etc., etc. So determination plays an important part. And one of the um, one of the firm determination one can have, or devotee can have, is to follow the rules. There are 4 rules that need to be followed as per the Bhagavad Gita. One needs to chant every day, hear about Krishna, eat sanctified food, which is called prasadam, fast on festival days. Even our digestive system needs a break once in a while. Even scientifically, it's proved that it's good to fast twice a month, every fortnight, just fast for one day to give rest to the digestive system. So all these things, they help one to gradually become a Mahatma. So this is what Krishna is trying to explain in excuse me, in this chapter. So he continues, and he also talks about in fact, from verse, I would say 16 onwards till about 20, you can say, Krishna starts talking about his opulences, just to help us to understand how great he is. He's not trying to brag about himself that, "Oh, I am this, I'm that great." No, he is giving us knowledge about his opulences, so that we can realize, wow, Krishna is really great. So, like, for instance, he says, "It is I who am the ritual, I'm the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestor, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I'm the butter and the fire and the offering." And he continues to say, "I'm the father of this universe, the mother," excuse me, the mother, the support, the grandsire. So he goes on, like for many verses where he says, "I'm the object of knowledge, I am Om." Many of us chant Om, which is a sacred mantra. He says, "I'm the Vedas, I am, everyone is my part. I'm the goal, I'm the master, I'm refuge, I'm the witness, I'm the dear friend, I'm the sustainer, I'm the creator, I'm the annihilator, I'm the seed-giving father." So many opulences he's describing till verse number 19. He's explaining very nicely. He says, "I give heat, I give rain, I give immortality, I'm death personified." He says that I am everywhere and everything is because of my energies. So from all this knowledge, we can understand how great is Krishna. It helps us to appreciate his position, and it helps us to kind of make our relationship with him much stronger. So this is how it helps us. So in fact, in verse number 20 and 21, Krishna says that those who study the Vedas and those who drink soma juice, it's a special soma drink, and those who are seeking to go to the heavenly planets, they are indirectly worshipping me. Now, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand, even from Bhagavad Gita, we understand that heavenly planets are still considered material planets. Krishna says, "A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. Mam Upetya tu Kantaya Punar Janmana Vidyate." He says, even if one goes to the highest material planet, the heavenly planet, which is Brahmaloka, one has to again come down. But one who comes to my supreme abode does not come back into the material world. So here he's talking about those who want to go to heavenly planets. They want to take birth over there. Why? Because they want to enjoy over there, because the sense gratification in heavenly planets is much, much more, a lot more. And but the thing is, the moment they finish their good karma, when they're finished enjoying, then they have to come back to this material world again. You see? So what is the point of going to a temporary place from where we have to come back and be back to square one, from where we started? No, we want to break the cycle of birth and death and go to the spiritual planet from where we do not come back. Now, in verse number 22, it's a very beautiful verse, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. So Krishna is talking about, excuse me. So here, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. What does that mean? Krishna is saying, but those who worship me with exclusive devotion. Exclusive is the important word. It's not that, a wife, she's just married and she comes and she tells her husband, you know what, I love you, but I love the neighbor's husband, and I love that one's husband, and I love that one's husband. That's not going to go down very well. The husband is going to say, hey, there's the door, you can go out, you can leave. It has to be exclusive. Okay, this is my husband and I love only my husband, not X, Y, and Z. So here also we can see Krishna is teaching us about exclusive devotion. We need to understand Krishna's position as the supreme. Supreme means there's no one equal to him or no one above him. He is the supreme. So he says, those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, not just on Wednesdays, but every day, all the time, meditating on my transcendental form. What is the result? He says, to them, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Now, the first time we heard this verse, we were like, oh, this is so wonderful. So if we do exclusive devotion to Krishna, always chant his holy name, and, so the result will be, he will give us what we don't have. And it'll be like, I don't have $1 million home. Maybe he's going to give me $1 million home. I don't have a Jaguar, so probably he's going to give me a Jaguar car, etc., etc., etc. That's not what he's talking about. He's not talking about material things. What he's saying is, you will get what you lack is if you lack devotion, if you lack sincerity, if we lack firm faith, he is going to give it to us. And he will preserve what we have, which means he'll preserve whatever devotion we have, whatever faith, steadiness, sincerity, whatever we have, he will preserve. So that is what he's talking about. So exclusive devotion, it always starts with mantra meditation, where we chant the holy names, because chanting those sound vibrations help us to purify not only our hearts, but our intelligence, our senses, our brain, our body, everything gets purified just by those transcendental spiritual sound vibrations. So today we learned about who is a Mahatma, a great soul, someone who is fully engaged in devotional service to Krishna, someone who's following the rules and regulations, someone who is always chanting, always doing mantra meditation, who's always trying to take on this knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita, is always trying to put it into practice. That is a Mahatma, a great soul. And what is the result of being a Mahatma? Krishna says, such a person comes under my divine protection. And once we are in the divine protection of Krishna, no one can harm us, no one can hurt us, no one can annihilate us. Of course, we are spirit souls, we can never be annihilated, but it's the body that is temporary that gets annihilated. So this is what we learned today in all these verses from 10 through 22, where we also heard about the wonderful opulences of Krishna and understood how great he is. Of course, this is just a teeny weeny little bit of list of his opulences. There are a lot more opulences we will learn further in different chapters, but this is where it ends today. Excuse me. Next week, there will be no class, unfortunately, because I'm flying to India. I'll be in flight. So obviously I won't be able to speak from there. There'll be no Wi-Fi. Excuse me. So there'll be no class next week. But if anyone has any questions, you're welcome.